that represents the cusp of the 10th house is the final angle of the chart, and it's called the MC. That's short for medium coli, meaning middle of the sky, but it's even more often referred to as the midheaven. This is the highest point in the chart, and so it's the most visible part of your personality. If you ask acquaintances their impression of you, they almost always describe this cusp and the nearby planets. By acquaintances, I mean people who know you slightly but not intimately, and often due to some facet of work or a mutual pursuit. If a person moves from acquaintance to friend or partner, then they begin seeing a more layered version of you. But let's stay on the midheaven. You know that the cusp of any house represents all of your assumptions and biases about the area of life in question. It operates like a lens, a filter. The cusp of the 10th house is the lens through which you see your reputation and career. Let's go into the 10th house a little deeper by looking at what it isn't. For that, we need to bring in its exact opposite, the 4th house at the bottom of the wheel. This house is the domestic sphere, your origins, your foundation. It symbolizes private life. In contrast, the 10th is the most public self you have to offer. Here you go out on your own. You pull up everything you've learned in the 4th and use it for your own ambitions. And this is where the trouble usually comes in, because actualizing the 10th house for the sake of the sun requires energy and vitality, and there can be some blocks to that vitality. Enter mom and dad. The 4th 10th axis is the parental axis. Which parent belongs in which house has not yet been completely settled. Some say the 10th is the house of the father, and some say the mother is there because of her role as the molding and shaping parent. I think this comes down to individual experience, but it's safe to say that the 4th and the 10th are associated with at least one of the parents. This axis includes the impression your parents made on you, the version of them you internalized. You learned millions of things from what they modeled, what they said outright, and their insecurities, spoken and unspoken. The past lives within you. Depending upon your history, you might have blocks to overcome before the cusp of the 10th and planets in the 10th can contribute to your overall success. A good and honest relationship between the 4th and the 10th houses is extremely important in the process of staking your claim in the world and becoming yourself. Don't forget, the 10th is the house of Capricorn in the natural zodiac. It's ruled by the achievement-oriented planet Saturn. And so it's associated with what you have to show for yourself. This is very high stakes for the ego. Let's go a little deeper into career and reputation. These two items are related, and that relationship is often organic. What you're known for and what you do for a living often do match, though not always. Some people have no need for a career at all, and their reputation is only based on things people see and hear from them or about them outside of a career. If you have Mars there, you might be seen as assertive or a tireless fighter. The moon there gives off the feeling that you're caring, nourishing, somehow maternal. If a career is part of the picture, a person is likely to be drawn to work that's an expression of the sign and planets at the midheaven. I have a client with Mars at the midheaven. It's in the compassionate sign of Pisces. And so he fights for the rights of the underclass in a legal capacity. I have another client with Moon at the midheaven who goes right to the primitive core of the moon. She feeds people in a catering business. But we can all expect quite a bit. And so it's super easy to feel that planets in the 10th and the sign at the midheaven just aren't living up to their potential. And people start to think, I'll be worth more in my life if I do this or if I do that. And at the top of the chart, we can fail or succeed in ways that are very measurable and very public. So we're under some pressure here. Let's look at an example of what I mean by that. In this chart, the brilliant planet Uranus is at the midheaven. And so this person is well known for being creative. Everything about her screams creativity and self-expression because even the sun is there with it. This configuration is at the top of the chart, and so it's obvious to everyone around her. She sings and writes and makes short films in her spare time. With this 10th house, at the very least, she needs to be an entrepreneur because with Uranus at the midheaven, she isn't a very good employee when you get down to it. Try as she might, she doesn't have a feel for conformity, and she has a generally rebellious spirit. With the Sun and Uranus together in the 10th, she needs to have a career in which she provides something original that only she can provide. Those are the basics of these planets in this house, and that's what they're driven to do. This client can pursue a safe career that requires nothing special from her. She can sleepwalk through being a cog in a wheel, but these planets say that she cannot actualize that way. Each house is dedicated to something. When we see a whole slice of the chart dedicated to career and reputation, we should take that seriously. The sign there and the planets in it are meant to work within that area of life to help bring the sun's actualization. If the sun is in the 10th house, career and reputation will be integral to the native's very identity. And a lot of distress will come from ignoring that truth. Let me give another example. Let's say the native is born with something a little more traditional in the 10th. Maybe Saturn's sitting there alone, and so staking a claim centers not around creativity and self-expression, but around reliability, dealing with the other goats, tackling authority, or being a responsible boss. They have a feel for climbing the ladder. They're good at conformity. They're in a profession that is compatible with their 10th house. See, you should feel confident in your 10th that you're the right person in the right place. Another thing we find in this house is authority figures. The 10th shows what we feel about authority figures in general, and so how we view the boss. That makes sense if you go back to the idea that this house represents a parental figure, because people often project onto their boss the old stuff that actually belongs between them and their parents. Transits and progressions through the 10th can make work and reputation more important. Of course, when it comes to the outer planets, transits can last 20 years or longer. So even with an empty house in the natal chart, career can take on a lot of weight for quite some time. Likewise, transits and progressions can coincide with promotions and times when we're given more authority. On the dark side, these movements can mark firings and falls in reputation as well as scandals. I've noticed that transits and progressions in the 10th can shape what we're doing in terms of path quite dramatically. Just remember that any planets in the 10th show what you want in public life and what you should be going after if you like the wind at your back. You can only do well in Saturn's house when you take yourself seriously and respect what you have to offer. Smash the like button and subscribe. And thank you for watching Secrets from an Astrologer's Desk. Stay tuned for all the ways you can get in touch for a birth chart reading and full astrological services. I'm Joy. The 11th house is next.